number 2 of Sacred Sound, and my name is Jennifer Coleman. I have a furry friend floating through. It's the cat that I'm house sitting, so if we end up having animal distractions, it's pretty much part of my life. So I really wanted to make this video to work with the sound again. Yesterday I posted and we worked with the first chakra, grounding, and the 5th chakra. Just reviewing that video, there was a couple things I missed out that I started like a tangent, which might happen. So in the first chakra, we had that grounding mudra, the left hand on the left leg, the Jupiter finger, pointer finger, Saturn, middle finger out to the side, and the breath and the energy, you want to bring that up the one arm from the earth, bring that into the heart space, and then put that into the leg and like put that into the body. So a lot of yoga, yes, there's the physical practice, beautiful. You can work through so much, spinal issues, digestion, lengthening out hamstrings and realigning, from all the way from the sacrum to the cervical vertebrae. But there's also this, energy part of it, and I think my focus and what I've always loved to do is integrate the energies and the physicality. So, but this practice I've been, giving and guiding is probably more on the energetic parts of the practices and how to think about things. So that's maybe what I'm guided to talk about right now, is some of these ways to work with the energy so that you fill up with prana. So prana is the energy, you could say life force, chi, kundalini. You are filling up with prana. It's a gift at being human, and the gift of being connected to source, connected to Gaia, connected to a lot of different energies. You can pull that energy in and use that prana, and the idea is to have it, really understand from a heart space that you then use that prana, for good and for serving humanity and creating positive outcomes for yourself and others. So the techniques I was showing yesterday with the mudras, the seated postures, the asanas, it's to work with the prana so that then you can go and create the life that you want to create with integrity and loving kindness and compassion. So, and the bowls help us, I listened to the sound yesterday. It was a little interesting. It didn't quite come through how I thought it would through the video. Well, I'll work on that with sound as far as the tones, but this is a D tone, a D. This is a 12-inch crystal bowl. And so there's a story behind the bowl, and I can get into that story someday. But this 12 inches is very standard, and it works with the 12 chakra system of a human being. So the D tone is for the sacral chakra, chakra 2, and it can be very monotone. It came across quite a bit more monotone than I thought, but we're just gonna go with it. Today's video, there was one more piece that I wanted to talk about, and I don't know if hang on there, stay there for a second. I thought I had it written down. So yesterday too, there was one other thing that I saw reviewing the camera was the fifth chakra. I started to talk about the animal totem for that, or the animal card. And the animal card, I talked about more about the feelings and what the representation of the fifth chakra. But the animal that works with that fifth chakra is, and it can fluctuate. Things like the crow symbolism about moving into the void again, and coyote messages. And so the reason why I talk about these energies, because when I went through a really hard time, what I call my spiritual awakening, when I was back in 2010, 2011, and I was homeless, you know, my health was the big piece of it. When you don't have your health, that can be really scary. We didn't know if we had thyroid cancer. I had kind of a combination, like the perfect storm of being sick with radiation and heavy metals, and then having my immune system drop. So it was a combination that took me quite a few years to work my way back. So that could be other videos as well. But when you get to that space where you're just like, I don't know what the heck to put in place, that's kind of where I feel like we're all at with and how to deal with that. And so I talked yesterday about grounding. You want to ground the energy. You want to, a big piece of this is just putting the hands out and surrendering. And we're just like, well, what does that do? What's the benefit of that? And so there's an acknowledgement of where you are when you surrender. And it's almost like that's when you are able to really, like, the answers will come up from there. But until we surrender, we're always like grasping, or what about this? What about that? Maybe if I did this, maybe if I did that. There's almost this like everyday place that you have to get to surrender, and then work from there. And a lot of us don't know how to do that. Like, it's something that we're all being forced to learn and create, like, right now. And that's tricky. So that's why, like, if you have a practice, sadhana, yoga, whether it's prayer, whether it's reading certain books, vipassana, maybe you go with a community group and do service work, and that clears your mind, and you're able to then have, this other feeling rise up, and then creating from there. So again, we were working with the energy of the first chakra. We were working with the energy of the fifth chakra. So first chakra, fifth chakra. There's definitely, I've been doing chakra work with people, and so every chakra has amazing lessons and energy to create from. So today I just was more inspired to almost do, let's see, I'm checking the time, to do almost like the next 20 to 25 minutes of practice with the bowl, and just to almost have like maybe one or two postures, not anything too out there. We're going to probably just go into Baddha Konasana, which we started yesterday, and then maybe just one other piece of movement, or just another opening, and it might be, and I feel like it's going to be around the heart. So and have it be more about the sound. I did tell people that if you wanted to just listen to sound and have it be very simple, yesterday's video, if you took it about 42 to 44 minutes, started there, and then went to the finish, that could be a really great way to wind down your evening. So yesterday was really interesting. I actually had a Zoom yoga class with my teacher in Whitefish. It's So shout out to Velvet. And so that's Thursday night. It's happening. It's a free class Zoom. And a lot of us teachers are being instructed to be of service right now. Things are being taken care of for me as far as housing, food. It's being taken care of. So I think I'm supposed to give right now of these type of videos. It's miraculous because I've always experienced quite a bit of struggle around this. Then all of a sudden it's like the opposite, like go figure. So I'm going with that for as long as I can. The other piece, Krishna Das is doing these kirtans. I haven't been able to really cry or have emotion for months, maybe even half a year or so. But listening to Krishna Das this morning, oh my gosh. So he's got, if you can go to Instagram, he has a link off his Instagram page for the kirtan. He did a free kirtan last night. I think it was almost 2 hours. And his voice, if you need to open up your heart chakra, listen to Krishna Das. It's just, his voice it resonates at a really, for me, a really deep level. I think there's some of us that are more, I resonate a lot with music, maybe hence the sound. I feel things more than I can even say things sometimes. And so I couldn't really talk, but I could listen to Krishna Das and just, it wasn't like a huge cry. It was enough to just like, oh my gosh, okay, I do have feelings. I'm not totally numb right now. And so there's free, and I'm saying free in the sense that these people are the energy is always circulating, right? So right now you can get these services, and in some ways nothing's free. Like I give, you give to somebody else. That's what all this new economy and new experiences are supposed to be about. It doesn't link up ABC. It's like I give, and then over XYZ gives, and then QPA gives, and then it comes back to CD and then F, right? So we're gonna end up, we want linear, but this is all gonna be circular. So I could go on for hours about what I think is happening spiritually. But let's pick a posture. Actually, let's do, I wanna do a little bit of movement. So let's, a little bit of down dog, a little bit of cat and cow. Just get connected with breath. I love cat and cow, to get connected with breath, move the spine. After a couple yoga sessions yesterday, very gentle. I didn't have agendas. I just went into the movement. We moved really slow in, I don't think Velvet wouldn't call it Kundalini, but it is very Kundalini inspired yoga. Maybe she would. But we moved very slowly, moved how we needed to. My head and neck and back finally released. Got that energy moving. Cat and cow. Maybe move into that down dog. See what the calves are doing. Lift the hips, pedal the feet. We did a lot in what they call rock pose. I've also heard this called hero pose with I'm sitting on my feet. You can do a little bit of rocking, get into the side hip. Take a nice reach. If this is anchoring down, I'm going to take a nice side body. You can gaze under that armpit. back. Work side to side. Come back to center. Drop that hip and see. Whew. It's interesting today. It's like I was so tight right side. Today it's a little bit more left. So I did a lot of 5th chakra work, and then in the evening we turned around and I did some more, but again, very gentle. You want to think in terms of colors. You can think in terms of red. Red for that 1st chakra, from the earth to the feet, to the knees, to the hips, to the pelvis. Ruby red, garnet red, to the 5th chakra. You can think ocean blue, creativity. Move the energy with shoulder shrugs or teeter. I like to teeter totter. Take one shoulder forward, one shoulder back. Play with that. It's interesting that one of the first symptoms with the virus, it's this in the 5th chakra throat area. So the energetics of that is speaking your truth and then also having your truth be heard. So listening. And it's interesting today, I can really feel it in that left hip. So we'll go into just a seated posture, and just enough to go into that weird way I talked about yesterday. Take one foot in, the one leg in, one leg out. Just take some nice round rotations. This one you can take really slow and just really feel. I can hear the cat. She's meowing at the birds. We call it bird. I don't have a TV. I don't know when last time I had a TV, maybe in 2005. So we put bird seed out on the deck. We call it bird TV. So you can hear sometimes chirp at the birds. You can have, I've had squirrel TV where you watch the squirrels, and I've had bird TV where you watch the birds. Okay. Again, like I want to be like, whew, all worked out. It might not happen on this session. Maybe. Okay, we'll go into, I want to play the bowl more. I like to talk because I like to teach about chakras, but I want to make it so that people can have a really nice sound session. So let's go into Baddha Konasana. And so I made that roll, again, you can use a foam roller, a mat, you can use towels. You took some towels, I've done that with towels, taken tape around the towels, made these rolls to help set up props, made my own props. Oh yeah. So you could be in, you don't have to take the feet together, you could just open the heart. Let the back go into a back bend. Open the front body, start to open this heart area. You could take a hand to the low belly, hand to the heart. If you felt like you wanted to open up the legs a little bit more, you could start opening the Baddha Konasana. So we're gonna be here for a while. I'm watching the time on the video. So posture that you've chosen. It could be legs at the wall. It could be in a Shavasana. It could be Shavasana being corpse pose. You can lay back on that bolster, that blanket. eyes into a seated posture, or that kneeling posture, the hero pose. I'm gonna do the Ma chant and the Om chant, and then I have just a couple things to mention. Put this softer grounding space that we've created with the sound, with the breath. I'm gonna take this feeling, and it's very peaceful, very soft, and actually really powerful. So we don't want to overlook these pieces that we're creating, these harmonies, these vibrations, the ways of being. Very, very powerful. Big inhale, big exhale. Do the Ma first. Big inhale. Ma. Thank you for sharing your practice, your energy. I hope this sound practice helps balance your brain, your energy, your prana, and helps you find that grounding, and then you can go create from there. Have a great day and happy movement. Namaste. So there was just one other piece I wanted to mention, and it's more of a couple of us, I've talked to a few of our girlfriends, and just the way we talk and communicate. In India, they call it like peanut therapy. I guess the women get together and shed the peanut shells, and that's their therapy. And we would do it. We would meet up with the horses every Sunday and talk and share our tidbits. So this is a little bit of a woman to woman, female to female communication. But a lot of us are what I was getting this morning was about focus and having, it's, some people could say purpose, focus, but what the images that were coming were, there's a couple, they're more sports related, so it's kind of interesting. But when you're doing sports and you look a certain way, that's the way you tend to go. So I canoe a lot, and when you're canoeing, if you head from one side of the river to the other side of the river, you have to ferry upstream, and you have to look at the place that you're gonna, from that one eddy to the other eddy. And if you take your gaze off that angle for a second, the river can flip the front end of your boat, and flip it in the sense that you just start to turn. And so there's you gotta get the angle right, you gotta get the line right, and you cannot take your eyes off that eddy that's across the river. And so it's like we're all, whatever that focus is for you, it might have shifted, because if you were a really good provider and then all of a sudden you lose your job and you're not the provider, you kind of have to step back and say, what's my bigger focus right now? It's like health and safety, which could be stepping back and saying, oh yeah, I've got some bigger stuff than just provider. It's like, I can learn to negotiate and be like a trader in my neighborhood. I could, step back and step into my spiritual guidance that I'm, supposed to guide some people spiritually. It could be that you're like, oh my gosh, I now have time to focus on this hobby, and your career takes a sidestep, just even part-time, and it allows you to focus. So the focus, everyone's going to have to determine what that is for them. I remember when when I was really not doing well again, it was like I had to kind of really look and say, okay, the big piece for me at that time, and it could be for some people now, is the health. So if your health isn't there, it's really hard to be happy in career, family. So I remember like for years, it was just health focused, really health focused to get, my diet right, to get the right exercise for me, the right movement. But that was my focus, and I couldn't make it wrong, or what about that, or get distracted. And so some of us might be like, oh my gosh, I have got to focus. It could be a really amazing time to focus on health and, stripping away, like, why is my skin so itchy? Why is my hair falling out? Going after these health pieces right now could be really key. It could be that I know I had a focus of, it was always a little more rocky. And that was a focus of like Dharma, right? You really can't go wrong, but it's not an easy journey. But Dharma is like your life calling, your purpose. And so really playing and understanding and being in the inquiry of what's my Dharma. So that could be a focus. So we're having to really, it's interesting, I think about, if you need more metaphors in sports, like golfers, they cannot look at the bunker. They have to look at the green when they're getting that next shot. And also with mountain bikers, like when you pick a line and it's rocky through the rock garden, and this interesting thing came, I remember this story where I was just on my regular ride, Bonneville Shoreline. It's not that technical, but there are these technical rocky gardens in it. And right, like I have my shocks at the right, for my weight. They're doing the right spring for my weight. My tires are the right PSI for what I like to ride. And I like, speed is your friend. So some of these rock gardens, you go through them pretty fast, and you have a focus, you have a straight line, or line for you that you know of that you like to do through that rock garden. And we were in this trail area, and I was just by myself, and these guys rode, I can't remember if I rode one direction and then they went, I think it was almost like, I don't know how it went, but they went through that same area. And the next, I must have done an out and back. I did quite a few out and backs. So I must have went out, came back, and on the way back, his tire was totally what they call tacoed. The tire was just like bent in, his whole, like, I don't think his frame broke, but he, like, because he was a heavier person, technically went through the rock garden and, like tacoed his wheel, like he was going to have to get a new, wheel set, that's going to be thousands of dollars. I'm laughing, but it was just so weird. I was like, how could I go through this rock garden and just like sail through and come back? And these guys were just was one guy actually. There was two guys, but the one guy was like, yard sailed. His bike was totally bent in with that wheel. I don't think he broke the frame, but like he couldn't ride. Like he had to take the front wheel off, walk out, and it was interesting because a lot of, it was like things like weight, and he just hit that front tire right at the right rock in the right way with his front body weight, and it just, folded that tire. So it's just so, I think, it's like we're having to navigate, and we're having to have really good tools to navigate right now. And it's almost like you could sail through and just be like, what was the deal? But I came back and helped, I like talked to these guys and was like, oh yeah, I can see where you would have done that with that rock. And oh, dang, maybe you'll have to check your PSI with your, maybe his shock. When your shocks don't work, that can really throw off your, what's happening with your, and that's maybe what we're doing. We're all like building these shock absorbers right now in our lives, with spiritual practices, with, helping others, being kind, going back to our meditation practices, maybe even turning off the phone and checking out for a couple of days, just to have self-care. So I was supposed to talk about, sounds a little out there, but that focus, getting your line, and that could be different for everybody. So thanks for joining me in the Sacred Sound Yoga. I hope to get this posted and keep making some other, working with the chakras. I think working with the chakras, working with the sound, and still keep working on that grounding energy so that we can surrender, make wise choices, and then focus and go. All right, well, have a great day and namaste.